In today's lesson, we'll be plotting points on a coordinate plane, and our goal is going to be to think like an airplane, as that's going to help us plot our ordered pairs. There's a couple important vocabulary words we want to be familiar with before we get into the actual plotting. First, we need to know what a coordinate plane is. A coordinate plane is a grid that's used to locate and place the points that we're going to be using. An ordered pair is a set of numbers that name a point on the grid. Ordered pairs have a specific form. They're always going to be shown in the form inside of parentheses, and the word pair helps indicate for us that there are going to be two numbers. Those numbers are related to the x and y lines that we find on a grid, and we'll see what that looks like in just a minute. What you need to keep in mind is the x value always comes first, and if you think of the alphabet, the end of it goes x, y, z, the x comes before the y. So the x is always going to come first, the y comes second, and they're always going to be represented by numbers. So we might have an ordered pair that looks like 2, 3, or we could have the ordered pair 15, 0. So it's not that the first number has to be smaller. Those numbers can be any numbers, but they're always going to be in that form inside a pair of parentheses with the x value coming first. A couple other important notes that are going to help us as we plot our ordered pairs is that to plot a point means to locate and mark the point using the given ordered pair. And when we do this, we're always going to start at the origin, which is 0, 0. So where both our x and our y value are 0. And then here's where that goal comes into play. We want to remember to think like an airplane. So any of us who've been on an airplane know that an airplane doesn't just start in one spot and go straight up in the air. An airplane instead moves across a runway and then goes up. Probably not straight up. An airplane does go a little more across, whereas we're going to go either straight across to the left or right, and then we're going to go straight up. Or we could go down, which is a little bit different than an airplane. But what we want to remember is before an airplane can go or move up, it's going to have to go across, either to the left or right. So that's what we want to focus on with that analogy. Our coordinate grid looks like this over here, or our coordinate plane. It's a grid set up with an x-axis and a y-axis. The x-axis is always going to go horizontally or side to side. In the middle we always find the 0, and then it moves off just like a normal number line, going up positive numbers on the right and negative numbers on the left. The y-axis also starts in the middle at 0 and then goes up with our positive numbers and down with our negative numbers. What we're going to do then with each of these examples is we're going to plot the ordered pairs in the coordinate plane, and we want to describe the location of each point. So we have to remember, you are already told that we always want to start at the origin, which is 0, 0. Where that comes from, or where we see, is our x value always comes first, as we mentioned on the other page. So our x value, our line across the middle, we find 0 right here. Our 0 is also the same for y, so that middle point, the line where they cross, that's where x is 0 and y is 0. That's where we're always going to start when we're plotting a point. As mentioned, the points that we're going to be asked to plot are going to be in the form of an ordered pair. So the 3, because it comes first, is our x value. And the -5, because it comes second, is our y value. The x and y indicate to our idea of thinking like an airplane. When I start at that 0, 0, that pink dot on my coordinate grid, I start off by moving across, either left or right. Since the 3 is positive, I'm going to have to start at 0, 0 and go 3 points to the right in order to find the positive 3. Then I either go up or down. Typically an airplane only goes up. However, since I have a negative number, -5, I'm going to go down from that 3 to -5, and this is where I'm going to plot my point. I always have to label a point because I'm often going to put more than one point on a spot. So right next to my dot, I'm going to put the letter A. A is found where the 3 value of my x, so the x is 3 along this line here, and my y value is -5. So what a coordinate grid does is it lines up those numbers and finds that exact crossing point and it places a dot there. For our second point, we're going to plot the point -4 and -2. Again, we're going to start at that 0, 0 in the middle. Then our x value, our first letter that comes, our first number that comes is -4. So I'm going to start at 0, 0. This time though I'm going to start by going to the left. So I'm going to go to -4. Then it tells me to go to -2. My y value is -2, so I'm going to again go down to -2, and I'm going to place my point there, and then I'm going to put my letter B somewhere close by. Now I want to go back because I did not describe these points. What that means by describe the location of these points talks about how we go about finding them. So let's start with B and work backwards since we just did B. Well, in order to determine where the point B was located, I first had to go to the left of the origin 4 spots. So the location is 4 units left of the origin, and then 2 units down. So all I'm doing by describing is talking about or putting into words the movement that I showed with my lines on my grid. For the first one, 3, -5, I first went 3 units right of the origin. And then once I got there, I went 5 units down. If you're feeling pretty confident about how this works, go ahead and move on to the next letter C on your own. Pause the video and then watch to see if your point matches up. Otherwise, feel free to watch as I go through another example. So in this one I have 1, 4. So my number first, my 1 is my x value. Again, I'm going to start right at 0, 0, and I'm going to move over 1 spot to the right this time to get to +1. Again, I always move left or right first. There was a 1 that was above, but that's on my y value. My x comes first, just like my airplane. I'm going to move across. Then I'm going to go to +4. So to do that, I'm going to have to go up this time, and then I'm going to place my dot at the place where my x value of 1 and my y value of 4 cross, and I'm going to label that C. I'm going to move ahead down here to do my describing of my point. So to find where that point went, I moved 1 unit right of the origin, and then I moved 4 units up. Alright, now the last point I'm going to plot is D. My first number is -2, that's my x value. So I always start at that origin, and I'm going to move 2 spots this time to the left in order to find -2. And then I have a +3, so I'm going to have to go up to find +3, and I'm going to mark it at letter D at that place. Now all these lines I've drawn in here, the lines to find out, those don't need to go on your paper. If you feel comfortable, if you like drawing those lines, that's perfectly fine, but they do not have to be there on your drawing. You're more than fine to erase them or to not even draw them, just kind of drag your pencil up above, or you don't even need to drag your pencil at all. The only parts that are needed are the dot itself and the letter that goes with it. The other marks are just sometimes helpful if you like to make sure that your numbers are lined up. So let's do our last description. For D, I found my spot by moving 2 units left of the origin, and then I moved 3 units up. At this point, I'd like you to go ahead and complete the rest of your note skeleton, plotting and labeling the points. There's a couple that you are asked to describe the location of, but for the most part you're just going to be plotting the points and using the description in your head as you find them. Make sure you indicate how comfortable you feel in our stop signs, giving me the number 0 to 4, and then add any questions, comments, concerns, or let me know how this lesson went for you. And tomorrow in class we'll dig a little bit more deeper and we'll apply plotting points to our work with ratios.